Welcome to another edition of the Wordsmith podcast. In this edition, I'm joined by Martin and Christian from the Danish clothing brand GripGRab. GripGRab has been around for the last 25 years, and I would like to have a chat around training, racing, and overall ride experience. But first, let's get to know the company. Welcome, Martin and Christian. Glad that you're with me here on the Wordsmith podcast. So I'm going to shoot straight in, right? Give us a little bit of the history of GripGRab and why you named it that company, GripGRab.
Well, first of all, thank you, Brian, for having us.
Thank you.
We've been looking forward to this day. It's been getting nice to meet you, we're super excited about the opportunity to be featured on your podcast. And it's also the first time that we're ever featured on any podcast. So a first for everything. But
well,
I think
I'm glad. Virgin podcasters.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it would be very appropriate, Christian, if you started telling a little bit about our history.
Thank you very much. Well, where should I start? I mean,
25 years ago.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, GripGRab is really, you could say, it started as a small family project based on a love for cycling. And I believe that that better cycling gear could give better cycling experiences. And Brian, as you said, GripGRab is now 25 years old.
But Christian, I think we need to go a little bit even further back, because it's true that GripGRab is a family business built on that. But where did it actually start? I mean, it started somewhere.
Were you guys cyclists in the past? Were you racing cyclists?
GripGRab actually didn't start as a company. In a sense, it started much earlier with a bicycle, you could say, because it's based on a passion for cycling. I mean, for me, it dates back to childhood, where I watched the movie E.T. That people from that generation knows. And when I saw that BMX, I was just instantly in love with cycling. From that moment, the BMX was much more than just a bike. I mean, it was that symbol of, you could say, freedom and exploration and fun. And that Christmas, me and our middle brother got a BMX. And I remember I really loved riding that bike. And I would be taking it apart and, upgrading it, because I was also really into the mechanic side of things. I just loved it. Some years later, the mountain bike came out, and I just, that was the next natural step for me, because I really loved playing around on the bike and having fun. But at that time, mountain bikes were quite expensive in Denmark, so my parents simply wouldn't allow me to spend that kind of money on a mountain bike. But I kept saving up, and then it happened that I went to the United States as an exchange student, and by that time I'd saved up enough money to buy my first mountain bike, a Specialized stump jumper. And I remember I just that was really, you could say, a big step up from the BMX. In the sense that you could go even further, have more fun, go faster. So I just, I really loved riding that bike. But I also quickly learned that riding a mountain bike also came with challenges.
Especially here in Scandinavia.
Yes, especially here in Scandinavia. But even back in the States, I was an exchange student in Washington State, and I was riding around in a semi-desert climate, like quite hot. But one day,
whereabouts were you in America?
It was in Washington State, in the east side of the Cascade Mountains. So if you know a little bit about like Washington State, you have the Cascade Mountains splitting the state up in two. On the west side, we have like Seattle, very wet and
Yep.
humid, very Scandinavian-like climate. But on the other side, we have this semi-desert where I would be riding around. One day, a friend and I took his truck up to the mountains and to ride our mountain bikes. It was the first time, so I was dressed exactly like I was, when I was riding around in that semi-desert. And I remember it clearly, even today, as we rode up. Normal shoes, normal gloves. All of a sudden, the trail turned into slush. And, we kept pushing harder to stay warm. But all of a sudden, my feet were soaking wet. Then they became cold. And all of a sudden, they were painfully cold. And at some point, the tears were running down my eyes. So we simply had to turn around and go back. And I think that was the first time I kind of learned that, okay, riding is not just always just fun and comfort. Sometimes, you really get cold.
So but do you think at that stage you wanted to, because you were using obviously products from, I don't know what company it was, and then they weren't obviously providing you with that warmth and that heat and that protection and things like that. At that time, were you thinking about, I can try something and do something about this?
And not at all. At that time, it was just, you could say, a realization. But it was only a year stay in high school, so I would return back to Denmark and start riding my mountain bike in Scandinavia. And there I was back to the kind of conditions that most Scandinavians are super familiar with, and also you as Scottish people, for sure. Wet roads, 0-degree temperatures, muddy trails. I mean, the kind of conditions that you don't really want to always go out into, but that you do it anyway.
And it can be fun at times. I can remember times where I've gone out in horrible conditions, or I've caught out in horrible conditions, and actually in a strange way enjoyed it. It's the same with, I do a little bit of running at the moment, and I quite like it when it's raining or it's a bit of snow and things like that. But in Scotland, I can remember times where we'd go out and we'd get caught, or I'd have to walk to the end of the where I lived, the end of the street to get onto the bike, because a lot of the small roads, they didn't put grit or salt on them. So I remember walking 300 metres to the end of the road to get onto the main road to go out with my bike, and I never thought anything of that. Okay, I'm a lot older now, and when I look out and it's bad weather, I don't want, there's a lot of fair weather cyclists, but when I was young, I just wanted to get out and enjoy myself, and sometimes the harsher the conditions, I actually enjoyed it.
I mean, I can echo that, Brian, but it's just the thing was, on the mountain bike, when your hands got cold, I mean, you lose control. And I mean, on the mountain bike, you need to, constantly shift gears and use the brakes. So I just saw, you could say, it literally became a problem that you had cold hands. I mean, you can not just endure it. I mean, because if you can't shift and brake, I mean, you're not good at the mountain bike.
How good were the products? Because when I was a lot younger, my mum used to knit us gloves. We used to wear woolen gloves, and when it started to get wet, they started to droop. Your fingers doubled in size, and so that, because back in I would say the 70s in the UK, there was very little stuff around. You were looking for just kind of normal wool gloves. They weren't technical,
No.
and it was a case of you overshoes. If you had a pair of overshoes, then that was very unique. We're talking about times where, and then it kind of developed a little bit, and then you starting to use, we call them washing up gloves, marigold gloves, to try and keep the rain out, and then plastic bags under socks and various other things. So I can totally understand what things were like back then. But just bringing this up to date a little bit, and your youth and your exuberance and looking at this, and at that stage you didn't really think about oh, I'm going to set up a company called GripGRab, and I'm going to change the way people make gloves and overshoes. You must have the GripGRab says to me, grip and grab are mostly
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of gloves.
exactly.
You must have started with gloves, but obviously by the looks of things behind you, the expanded more. We'll talk about that. But where did that name GripGRab originate from?
Yeah, to give a little bit more of a background story, returning back from the States, I discovered other people riding mountain bikes, but at that time the mountain bike was, quite a rarity. So we decided to establish a local mountain bike club. So I actually co-founded a mountain bike club, and and I would be riding around with a.
That's in Denmark.
Yeah, in Denmark, in our.
But you don't have any mountains.
No, I know, but we rode mountain bikes anyway.
No, it was good.
Yeah. And
a bit of tongue in cheek. I've raced in Denmark quite a little bit, and I've won your gravel race, the Grand Prix Herning, back in '94. So I know that you've got a lot of gravel and kind of mountain biking, but it must have been quite unique having a mountain bike club in Denmark.
Yeah, I think for Danes, we don't necessarily make the connection between the name including mountains and then having to ride mountains, because we have a lot of, you could say, undulating hills, and I mean it's actually quite fun to ride your mountain bike in Denmark. But as I said, I mean I experienced the effect of cold hands, and so did my fellow riders in the club. So at some point we received, you could say, an email from a glove supplier in Pakistan, who said, we make gloves, and at that time I think I didn't see it as a coincidence. I saw it as an opportunity to go in and make a difference. And I had this really good riding buddy, Andreas, he actually came up with a name. I had a handful of different names, but we thought it was a really cool name for a glove brand. Yeah. And I think at that time, I probably hadn't envisioned that we would be sitting here today being a complete head-to-toe brand. So you could say that the dream grew gradually. Also, at that time, I was in medical school. I was half through medical school on my way to becoming a doctor. And yes, I did become a doctor, and I have also done a PhD. We can talk about that another day. But it's just to say that, in the beginning, it was just about solving the problems with the hands. But soon after, shoe covers followed. Because, I mean, when your feet get cold, it's hard to focus on anything else. And then clip to today, I mean, we are a head-to-toe brand but it took some time, and that's probably what has made us so, you could say, well established within gloves and shoe covers, because we really focused on those categories in the beginning.
Yeah, no, I've got you sent me some gloves and things like that. I've yet to try them yet, because it's outside. It's about 15, 16 degrees. But I have to say that even looking at the quality of these overshoes that you use, neoprene and things like that, they're pretty much bomb-proof. And the thing is, we've been talking about clothing, and the reason I really wanted to talk to you guys is because you kind of specialize in gloves, overshoes, and stuff that and clothing that you use kind of all year round. I can talk to a lot of different clothing manufacturers and things like that, but most, and I've worked with teams and I've been a professional bike rider myself, but a lot of the emphasis is on aerodynamics these days, and it's how can you have that speed suit, how can you go faster and all this sort of stuff. And the main reason I wanted to talk to you guys, first and foremost, is because you have a slogan, Ride All Year, and as an ex-professional bike rider, I used to spend more time training than racing, and most bike riders do now. And we come from kind of coldish countries, especially in the winter. It's okay maybe for other countries, and some riders get the opportunity to do warm weather training. But I always liked to kind of stay at home and trained in the UK, especially in Scotland. And I can remember growing up, people say to me now, I live in just the outskirts of London now, and the temperature between London and where I was brought up in Paisley is quite significant. And I now realise that I never really, when I was growing up, I never thought about the snow, the cold, and all this. I just got on with it, enjoyed it, and I think I want to kind of delve into the conversations around how important training clothing is, because if you don't have the right clothing, especially like you say, most bike riders have been through this. They get at some point they get cold feet and they get cold hands, the extremities, and if that happens, in my mind, you can't train properly. Like you said in a mountain bike earlier, you can't feel the bars, you can't train properly. So I want to talk about more about the kind of training clothing all year round, because without the right clothing, you cannot train to your capacity, your full capacity. And if you can't train to your full capacity, then you're not going to be racing at the level you need to be racing at. So you guys kind of specialize in that area, and I know that you're looking at various different products with kind of highlighting gloves and overshoes, and how important do you think this ride all year clothing has an impact on cyclists? Because I don't think that people look at it. I don't know where. When I'm here in the UK and it's probably a handful of degrees, and I go out and I see people still in shorts, I can't get my head around that. I can't get that. A lot of people are kind of underdressed. So, you guys over the years have concentrated on the extremities, but you're now doing, like I said, from behind you, you're doing all sorts of products and things like that. I think you've got 3 ranges, rides. Is it Pacer and Explorer?
Yeah, exactly.
Why have you got 3 different ranges?
Wow, I mean, maybe you spoke for quite a long time there, Brian. So you were actually about to ask some questions, and then I think we just carried on. I think maybe we should talk a little bit about what this ride all year. If you would zoom up here, you would actually see that. I think you can see it. It's up here. Yeah, you don't need to turn the camera, but ride all year is a really powerful statement for us, and it's something that I think at some point we didn't really realize that it was something special, and that it was something that we needed to embrace as more than a slogan, because for us, we're not ex-professionals, so we have not had the benefit of needing to train 20 hours all seasons to be able to compete on professional level like you have. But Christian and I, we have found it completely natural to essentially use the bike as our primary means of transportation to and from work since many years, and being in Scandinavia, that essentially means riding all year, and riding all year in Scandinavia, that requires that you wear appropriate clothing, and that's essentially what GripGRab does. We create products that enable people to ride all year.
You can say, for GripGRab, ride all year is much more than just a tagline. it's basically a promise to riders out there that we got their back.
Yes.
And how can we say that? I mean, it's because we are riders ourselves. I mean, we love riding our bikes, and we don't want to accept that weather or external conditions will stop that.
Yes.
And that's really our approach to also product development. I mean, it started with gloves, but it expanded into all categories from skin to shell, from head to toe. So we ride our bikes and test the products. I mean, we work with riders. And have done that. I mean, I've been racing not professionally, but in the highest level in mountain bike in Denmark. So I know a lot of riders, and from the very beginning, I've would be hand out gloves, shoe covers to fellow riders and get their feedback basically. So in that sense, you could say it's developed for riders by riders and has always been, and that has kind of just improved over the years. I mean today we have a full-time person whose job is to connect products under development with riders out there and get the feedback, because you could say it's easy to distribute products, but getting that feedback, getting that honest feedback is super important. And that kind of feedback feeds directly into product development, because I mean we talk products every single day, so it's become our life to develop products that we use ourselves, but that we could also see creates value with so many people out there.
Yeah, and I mean,
when you you said that you got in touch, or someone got in touch with you from Pakistan, where does the material for your products come from in the world?
I mean, you're speaking about fabrics, or
fabrics. Yeah.
I mean, the truth is that they come from all over the world. I mean,
Okay.
I mean, the 25 years of experience has taught us, who makes the good materials. I mean, a lot of the materials for the cycling wear comes from Italy, because they have a long history of making really fine materials. But also Taiwan is an important material sourcing country. I mean, they're also very, technical oriented.
There's also materials from, I mean, neoprene is produced in China. So our neoprene is also from China. We also work with materials that are sourced in Japan, where they have that. I mean, they're really skillful in these, you would say, highly technically advanced materials. And I mean, we implement. We implement all that whenever it makes sense. I mean, so we choose the most appropriate material for any given product at any given time, and it's not really important to us where it comes from in the world.
It's also, Brian, a matter of creating the best possible product for the customer. I mean, a lot of people when they talk about quality, they think that it's something that means something special, but for me, the quality is about delivering the right product for the right rider. So I mean, it's easy to go down on a fabric fair and buy all the most expensive, top branded materials, and I'm not saying they are bad, but you pay a huge premium. So for us, it's about finding the right material for the job. Of course, always with some, you could say, some core principles that they have to be durable. They need to deliver on the core functionality. And we will get back to those product lines later. But the product lines is really also about identifying different needs among different riders, and then creating products that suit the needs of those riders.
On you go, Martin.
No, I think, we also have to be honest and say, at first, we didn't. I mean, when Christian first started the business 25 years ago, we didn't have the luxury of being able to go out and pick and choose materials. We would essentially, or Christian would use the materials that the manufacturers had on stock in Pakistan, where the production was initially. And then, as the business has developed, as we've scaled up in size and volume, we have, we've moved ourselves into a position where we can now, I think proudly say that capable of working with the best if that's what we want. That's not always the case, like Christian says, because some of these branded high-tech fabrics are very expensive. So it's difficult, to create a product that will actually have a landed price that allows it to be commercially viable to what we consider to be our target group.
Yeah. So the products that you sell, the material is already out there. Have you worked with these suppliers to develop anything unique on your own, or is it all just materials that are out there?
Yes.
Yes. Speaking about innovation, there's of course fabric innovation, and especially for the gloves. We develop our own palm materials that are at the same time like super strong, soft, durable, all that. They're not branded, but they're developed with some of the best manufacturers of those type of materials. In terms of, you could say, innovation, over the years we have received different awards. For gloves, we came up with the idea of inside grip. It's a technology that adds grip to the inside of the glove, coming from a realization that a lot of time your hands are actually sliding on top of the glove material, being slippery on the inside. So to begin with, for our mountain bike gloves, we developed this inside grip that dramatically improves your grip on the handlebars. And that particular innovation received at the same year both a Eurobike award and an ISPO award.
Yeah, and I would say it was probably one of the reasons why at some point we ended up sponsoring what was then Team Alpecin Phoenix with essentially because their big star, Mathieu van der Poel, he had gone out, and I don't know if he had bought the product himself or if someone had given it to him, but he was looking for some really good gloves for cyclocross. So all of a sudden, he was wearing our products, and we had nothing to do with that. But I think that's a good example of how when we innovate and make when you put an extra effort into something as basic as a pair of gloves, I think is often an overlooked thing. Then you actually come out with a really fantastic product, and that gets attention.
I know that I've worked with teams in the past, and I know that to a certain extent you're dealing with a team, but you're also dealing with a lot of different individuals, like you say, Mathieu van der Poel, possibly looking for something, a little innovation to kind of help him and support him. And I know a lot of other kind of bike riders are the same. I've been in a situation where we've been in harsh conditions in a race, and unfortunately the clothing supplier that we had, the rain jackets just weren't good enough. And I was forced as a manager to go out and authorise them to go out and buy a rival's rain jackets so that they can stay. So I know a lot of these things happen in bike racing, not just in clothing, but also in other products, nutrition, various other things. Because one nutrition company, it doesn't suit all the riders within a team if they're sponsored. So there is a lot of that kind of happen that you don't kind of realise. It goes back even many years where people used to use shoes and blacking out the competitors and things like that, logos and things like that. So yeah, you're producing something that a lot of kind of other professional bike riders, if they're not sponsored by the product, are using your products.
Yeah, and I mean that's it's interesting with these anecdotes from back when you were racing, because it's completely familiar to us. I mean, as you know, we're a proud sponsor of the Nordic team called UnoX Mobility, and we've been that now for the past 2 years, or this is the second season we're entering, and our entry ticket into that is actually very similar to what you're saying, because I was, there's a lot of Danish riders on that team, and one of their riders from the previous years was a good friend of Christian and I, a young guy, Louis Bendiksen is his name, and he's always been sort of sponsored by us, non-officially, and he joined this team in the later part of his career, And then he was writing me on Messenger and saying, "Look, Martin, I'm using these overshoes and training up here in Norway, and all these guys, they also want to ride with them. Can you send me a code?" So I sent him like a discount voucher so that he could use it. And then all of a sudden we had all these guys that were ordering our products and then also using them exactly like you say. They were blackening out the logos. Yep. But we could recognize them when we saw pictures from races, etc. And then we later got a call from one of their director of sport chiefs, a Danish guy called Gummi, a really charismatic guy, and he was like, "Hey, look, guys. I mean, we have to formalize this because all my guys they're using your products anyway. We should make a sponsorship agreement." And I think for us that was a really, once again, a really good confirmation about all the great work that we do and what Christian and his team does to the products. It materialized into products that are just second to none, and where professionals have a clear preference for it. And this is specifically for overshoes and gloves. And to me, that really confirmed, and it was also why it was a no-brainer to enter this collaboration with them, because otherwise we'd not normally consider professional cycling teams as like our main marketing communication channel. But this particular collaboration was just so suiting or so fitting, because it was demanding conditions, it was gloves and overshoes. So I mean, it was
almost a no-brainer.
Yeah, you call it fit like a glove, right?
Yeah, no, a nice saying. Yeah, like I know this happens a lot more than people think, having been there, and of course as a rider and a team manager, and you want the best for the riders. But the thing is, you're talking about the markets and things like that and the experience that you've had. Where is your biggest markets for GripGRab? Where obviously your biggest sales, what areas? It's not just Scandinavia, but obviously it's here in the UK, of course.
Yeah, a good question. I mean, sales has always been my thing, so I will also answer this one.
Sure.
I mean, I've been involved in sales ever since Christian asked me to help him out with the business the first summer that it existed. Initially, we built up sales to retail in Denmark. I mean, Christian had opened the doors to the first couple of bike shops. We were actually at that fundraiser that we talked to you about, and we had invited the very first customer, a guy called Lars, that then had a very nice shop called Road Bike Shop. That was like a state-of-the-art kind of place, the places you would want to go if you would get the best cycling products. And Christian had convinced Lars to list our products. And I mean, GripGRab's growth path has been very organic. It has been founded in solid retail relationships with a core in Denmark. Then I started driving over to Sweden because we can kind of speak the same language, opened some doors there. Then I went down to northern part of Germany where they speak German, but they also speak a little bit of Danish. So, with my school Deutsch, I could manage to convince a few retailers. And then, we hired the first full-time sales rep in 2007, the second one in 2009, and then gradually it had expanded. I mean, we were very much founded in Europe, where the biggest markets today is the Netherlands. That's the biggest market for us currently. Germany is the second biggest one. Denmark remains a stronghold for us. I mean, we're really I wouldn't say we're a big brand, but we're a pretty important brand here. So I would say the main European countries where conditions are a factor, bad conditions are a factor. That's where we are currently strongest. While we have a weaker presence in a country like Italy or Spain. That's what we're in the process of changing up.
Yeah, maybe we could add, we are currently seeing quite a bit of success in Canada.
Yes.
Where all weather or all year riding and all weather riding is also a big thing.
Yeah, we can't reveal the details of that, but we're in the process of entering a deal with a major player over in Canada who's just fallen absolutely in love with our brand. We work with a really nice, it's a sales agency, but it's essentially become good friends of ours, a couple who are also die-hard riders themselves and who fell in love with the brand simply by testing it. And their approach to the Canadian market is very much about seeding products to right people. And that's the fantastic thing, and why I feel so confident, going into new markets, is because every time someone that rides a bike in any, challenging conditions, every time they get their hands and feet or body into GripGRab products, I know that they won't be disappointed. And that's very much been the logic behind our entry into Canada, and why I'm super excited about that opportunity, because I think we're kind of obliged to make sure that the Canadians, good cyclists, that they also have access to these products that we're making.
Yeah, I'm quite fortunate. I've got family in Canada.
Oh yeah,
and they show me they're from Toronto, an Ontario area, and when I look at their kind of social media, they do have a winter, they do have a summer. Unfortunately for Scotland, it seems to be very little difference across the kind of seasons. I can't remember, the big kind of snow drifts and things like that we used to get. Of course, you're not going to be riding when it's like that, but just getting kind of back to, I know there's a lot of indoor riding and things, and it's something that I've done in the past, but I prefer to ride outdoors. So the fact that you're looking at Ride All Year and talking about not riding indoors but riding outdoors, it's the same with a little bit of running. I've done a little bit of running indoors and treadmills and things like that, but I prefer just getting out in the fresh air and riding. And I know a lot of bike riders are like that. Okay, you get your Swift Kings that just want to thrash around indoors and sweat buckets and things like that. I'm totally opposite to that. In fact, I was at the Giro d'Italia and I was going back years and years, but I was at the Giro a few years ago. We couldn't take bikes when we were working with Eurosport because there just wasn't room. And I thought, right, I'll just go on the indoor bike in this gym. And of course, Sean Kelly and a few of the other lads were out running. And I wasn't really a runner. I did the New York Marathon as a bit of a bet way back in 2009 after 3 months training. But I thought, no, I'm not going to run. But I got there and I'm sitting in a gym, and this bike, it was a silly little bike, riding away in it, looking out and thinking, what am I doing? What am I doing? So I said to Sean, right, tomorrow morning I'm coming out running, but I'll jog and walk and jog and walk. So I did that, and that was my introduction into running, and I'm still running after about seven or 8 years now. But I prefer running. For me, I can do in all weathers. In cycling, it's a little bit different, but the biggest problem for me. And just finishing off in Canada, you can see that why GripGRab would be great there because of the different extremes that they've got in riding outdoors. But one of the biggest problems as a rider that I've had is, and I remember growing up, I would look out the window, the landing window, and try and judge what the weather was going to be like. And we all, as bike riders, we all become specialist, weather people. And the biggest choices that I've had in cycling is what to wear, what to ride, what do you start with? How do you set out what you're going to wear? It's okay for people living in nice warm countries. They just wear a pair of shorts and jersey and off they go. But throughout, riding all year, what do you wear? Because in running, you know that you're overdressed after 5 or 10 minutes because you go out there, it's cold, you put a lot of clothing on, and then you're stripping off. And running, you don't have places to put things. But in cycling, it's always these choices of what to wear, and overdressing, underdressing, and that's always a dilemma in the life of a cyclist.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, two words come to my mind when we speak about this topic, and that's you could say adaptability and versatility. I mean, And I think I would maybe draw other parallel. I mean, Brian, you come from professional racing, and I mean, if we don't talk about training but racing, there you have all the team cars, and there you have all the stuff in the car. You can, get a raincoat if it starts raining, and
you've got a choice. You've got a big car. You've got a big bag in the back of the car. You've got spare shoes. You've got spare everything. You can chop and change.
Exactly. But I mean, for ordinary riders who don't have that kind of setup, or for riders who just need to go training, I mean, really that kind of, adaptability is for me a key word. Of course, to have a good base layer suitable for the kind of temperature you're riding in, to keep the core as dry as possible. But then also, having extra layers to put on, light layers. I mean, looping back to what we talked about before, but I don't want to shame indoor riding, but I mean, even indoors riders sometimes have to ride outdoor, right? If you want to go racing, and we just this previous weekend sent our gravel racing team to a race in Harzen in Germany, and they were coming from a Friday with 23 degrees. And the same on Saturday, but on Sunday morning, the temperature had dropped to 5 degrees and raining.
Storming.
But our team, they set out racing, of course, warming up with the rain gear on, like a nice rain jacket, but then, bringing a light emergency jacket, in the back pocket. And it turned out the condition got so tough that, after 2 laps, before going out to the 3rd lap, they were actually, they decided to close the race because they ran out of ambulances to bring people down who were going into hypothermia, simply because they weren't dressed for those kind of conditions. They were, this is just a little bit of rain, but the importance of staying dry is really big. And staying dry is actually, you could say, maybe taking it too far, because you will never stay dry, but it's about staying drier for longer and not having the wind chilling you down when it really gets nasty out there.
I think Christian, you're touching on something that I learned. I can remember when Gore-Tex came out, the fabric, and I got a Gore-Tex jacket, and I can remember just wearing it, and it was supposed to be breathable and keep you dry and let the sweat out. That was rubbish, because I had this jacket on, and the sweat was dripping out the end of of my sleeves. Although, because that's the balance that you've got, you can keep the rain out, but you sweat a lot from the inside. So, like you say, that the difficulty is keeping yourself drier at the core, and that's very difficult to do, because if you get too warm, you're sweating, and that's the problem sometimes, when even in harsh conditions you're still sweating underneath, but you're trying to stop the water and things like that from the rain getting into your core.
Yeah, I mean I agree to that, or I think we agree to that, but I think it's very important to understand how, as a cyclist doing races like the race that they were doing this past weekend down in Harz for Harz Gravel, you don't speak about staying comfortable, because by default when you are racing hard you're not comfortable. But it was so. I mean, Morten, the internal guy, Christian's guy, who's part of the team and who's also working with Christian in the R&D department. I mean, he said that there are guys, really fast guys showing up on the start line. They were on these aero gravel bikes wearing speed suits and aero helmets, no rain gear whatsoever. And that might work on any given Sunday where the weather is okay. But for these guys were just falling out. They were completing maybe 1 lap and then they were straight into the car, or it would be hypothermia. While Morten, he was wearing, this is our version essentially it's our version of a GABA jacket. And also on the outside, actually a proper rain jacket. And yes, this is of course not as breathable as wearing a proper Lycra skin suit, But in conditions like that, it was all about survival. And I think, I mean, that alludes exactly to, to the challenge that you were describing there earlier, Brian, that, I mean, getting dressed for the right occasion is so challenging, because that guy wearing the speed suit and the aero helmet there, I mean, he didn't wear that because he wanted to exit the race after one lap. He wore that because he somehow misinterpreted what the conditions would throw at him and what racing would be like on that particular day. And I think that's, I mean, and this was like almost like an elite type of gravel cyclist who should have plenty of experience. But I think what we see out there is that there are so many people that they simply don't know what to wear. I mean, we have been taking part in a big event in Sweden called Vätternrundan, very much like a focal event where you ride around Lake Vättern, which is a 300-kilometer. It's not really a race; it's more like an event. And we've been up there in a shop in the starting area selling, you would say, what would be turned into emergency overshoes and emergency gloves. And you'd be surprised how many people that show up for such an event. They're going 300 kilometers. Some of them are starting at 3 in the morning. And they just show up unprepared. And I mean, I think that's, I mean, I don't know what it is that I'm trying to say with this, but it's just, there's so much need for education out there of cyclists, because there's so many cyclists that simply they don't know, and they learn the really hard way. And we consider it to be something that we really want to do, and do more than what we're doing now is educating people. I mean, in a sense, to enable them to ride all year in relative comfort, like we do.
Yeah, just to touch on what you said about you had the GABA jacket there, and that is an essential tool of a professional bike rider's clothing range now, and that actually comes from an ex-pro now team manager, Gabriel Rasch, a Norwegian rider that developed that jacket. So Gabriel GABA jacket, and that's where it came. He decided that, well, the products that I've got at the moment aren't sufficient. I need to try and kind of help develop that jacket. Now it's called the kind of version or whatever, the GABA jacket. And I can remember as well, my experience as well with a lot of these different things and using different products. I was in the start line of the Giro d'Italia way back in the 90s, 94. And the majority of the riders were Italian at the time, and they're all kind of talking and pointing, and I didn't really kind of understand what was happening. We were going over the Stelvio and then over the Mortirolo, and we're doing a loop round Aprica, one of the the big stages. And I can remember starting, and I was in just my racing kit, and there was riders with leg warmers and shoe covers and gloves, and I'm like, what am I missing here? Right? So it's starting to get me worried. I thought, being Scottish, I was prepared for everything. And they were telling it was snowing up at the top of the Stelvio, and I'd never really kind of experienced it. So I'd never, nowadays, the recon stages and things like that, back in my day, we never reconned anything. It was just relying on experience. And I can remember going along this road and starting to get worried. So I'll go back to the car, get the bag out, stop, pull some overshoes on. I started to climb, and I was like so warm. It was like, because you're sweating, you're trying hard. And I was wanting to pull clothing up. At the top of the climb, a lot of riders, they like to try and put their jackets on and the descent and things like that. I just thought, no, it's too dangerous. So I stopped, and my soigneur gave me some hot tea and honey, and I drank that, put my jacket on, put my gloves on, and descended the Stelvio. And that was an experience of extreme, going from, say, 15, 16 degrees at the start of the stage into, negative temperatures at the top, snow, pulling on stuff and things like that. So for me, yes, we had the help and the clothing and the bags of clothing, and we could decide to do that. But just touching on the fact that it's for normal cyclists, they don't have that, and it's, I know we can put stuff in pockets and take stuff off and put things on, but like you said, in these extremes, it's not all about pulling layer after layer after. Of course, we've got thin layers and things like that. I can remember riding a junior race in England, and it was coldish, but it was really stormy and rain, and it was supposed to dry up later on, and a lot of the riders were pulling on layer after layer after layer, and those days away back in the 80s, layers weren't as thin as they were now. And I don't know how you guys feel, but it seems when you put so many layers on, it's like we call it like a Michelin man. You don't feel you don't feel free. You feel as if it's a kind of weight on you. And I never invented it, but we actually put holes in bin bags, black bin bags. So we had our base layer, black bin bag over us with the holes for the head and our arms, and then put the top in. And people were looking at us thinking we were mad. It was a case of the plastic bin bag kind of helped keep the as dry a little bit, but it's something that you can rip out straight away when you're done with it, and it didn't make you feel as like claustrophobic with all this clothing on. So I think the changes of clothing nowadays is drastically improved, especially when you look at the GABA jacket that you've got there, or the rain jacket you've got there. These things have changed significantly.
Yeah. But Brian, what I also noticed, I mean, your story about the bin bag, I think it comes also from professional cycling, where you often be riding your bike for maybe 5-6 hours. So during the course of a race, I mean, you will go through a lot of different conditions, and that's of course where at some point you really need to stay dry, but then at another point you need to, I mean, be able to let go of all the heat and dry up again. So that's why your bin bag is actually kind of an interesting thing. It's almost like a disposable rain jacket, right? But But you could say for most of our customers are, after all, not, you could say, professional riders riding 5-6 hours. I mean, of many people will do that, but in that case, you kind of need, as you say, some modern gear that that's breathable, that's lightweight, so you can stuff it away and put it in a jersey pocket. And just one more thing. I also think that, I mean, cyclists, they can learn a lot from outdoor people, because the outdoor industry really shows how to do it. I mean, people would never go out into the mountains being unprepared. I mean, they would always bring, a shell, like a wind shell, a rain shell. They would have like a proper mid layer. They will also carry a backpack, so they have a place to store it. And I think that's kind of the dilemma for performance-oriented cyclists who want to go fast. They also want to, stay lightweight. They don't want to have like bags on their bikes. But really, I think many people should consider if it isn't worth, stuffing your pockets a little bit extra, or maybe putting like a small bag on your bike, so you can maybe carry your tools, under the saddle, your fuel in a top tube bag, so that you have a little bit of room for those spares. Because once, as you said, you're on top of Stelvio, and all of a sudden you are freezing. It's maybe hailing or snowing. I mean, you would probably want that rain jacket rather than having been a little bit lighter on the climb. Or
Do you know what people don't realize? In the different extremes, your body uses a lot of energy to try and stay warm, right? Yeah. And on the flip side, it uses a lot of energy to try and stay cooler in the warmer conditions. And people don't really kind of realize that. They're all thinking about, like, they're going out for maybe 4, 5, 6 hours, or doing a sportive. What do I need to take? I take, this nutrition, I have to use this and hydration and things like that. But they don't realize about the extreme temperatures and things like that, how their body has to work that little bit harder. So, like you say, it's gearing up for the ride. And even if it is something else in your back pocket or a little bit more weight on the bike, it's going to save you in the long run if you've got the perfect products. But another thing that, and you just touched on there, Christian, it's okay being a professional bike rider, where now you get everything kind of tailor made for you. You know, there's days at the training camps now where you virtually get measured. You put stuff on, they measure you. You go out and there's all your kit, and it's all very individual. But for a clothing manufacturer, you don't do that for the individual. Well, you can, but you don't normally. So it's normally, you know, small, medium, large, extra large, or whatever size you do. So how do you cater for the different sizes for riders? And women's is a different thing altogether, and we can talk of that a little bit later. And also, I'm going to be talking in part 2 of this to Eleanor Barker, who is a professional with the Uno Extemp. I wanted to get involved with this, but she's juggling training, and you know, she's got a young family and she's juggling a lot, so she couldn't make it with us today. But I'll add another part in. But that's something I wanted to talk to Eleanor about, you know, especially in the women's. It's so complex in the women's side. But let's talk about just in general. How do you look at sizing? Because I can remember coming away, getting kind of measured up and things like that. But there's a product manufacturer out there. Normally, I'll say roughly on average, I'm a large top, large bottoms, and I got asked by this clothing manufacturer from Italy, who was sponsoring the team, and says, right, what size are you? Oh, just give me a large. And I couldn't get into it. I ended up at being 2XL because it was so small. So how do you gear up for, you know, sizing and things?
Good question.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it sounds like you have tried some Italian brand maybe, because they tend to go a little bit small. But I mean, basically, we follow, you could say, a European sizing model, because you could say that there are standards for that. So we basically just adhere to that. So I think really there are definitions for sizing. So for me, it's basically about following those, you could say, definitions and staying true to that. And I'm not saying that's easy. Obviously, that there's also different fit for cycling wear, because one thing people getting confused is like the sizing and then the fit. because for example, at GripGRab we have like race fit for our pacer line. That's for going fast, because you want to be aerodynamic. Then we have a slightly more relaxed fit that's called active fit. It's not loose in any sense, but it's also not super tight. So when we still speak about sizing the same way, so a medium is a medium, but for active fit it's a little bit looser than a medium for race fit, and the cut is also different to adapt to slightly different riding positions.
Yeah.
So really consistently insisting on keeping true to that size is so important, and that's where we put a lot of energy. I mean, both in the development process, you know, when creating the size breakdown, but also in the manufacturing, to actually control that the sizing stays true to what it should be.
Yeah, I'd like to just make a quick example, because what Christian is alluding to is absolutely easy to illustrate. I mean,
yeah.
You know, we speak about sizing and we speak about fit. I mean, all of the jerseys here are size medium. This is kind of it's from our ride range. That is a part of our range which is a little bit more, we just say entry level from a price point of view, and also slightly more forgiving from in terms of fitting. So this is a size medium of that, and then we have another. It's a black. It's difficult to see. We have it in another color, so we can just take the purple one. This is also a size medium.
Yeah.
Right. And
you can see the difference.
I can wear both as I'm also size medium for our cycling wear, but the way these fit on me and the way I feel when I wear these different styles is uniquely different, because this is very much a tight sort of race type of fit, and this is a completely opposite fit. But they're both GripGRab mediums. So for us, it's really important, to make that distinction. So, I mean, because you fit one size medium of GripGRab, you don't necessarily fit all sizes medium.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, exactly. I know there was a very technical brand, ASOS, from Switzerland, and
Yeah.
I remember trying on some of their kits, and they are very technical, and it was a bit tight across the chest, and they asked me just to kind of bend over, and I bent over into a ride position, and that got a little bit easier. And I says to them, I says, but I don't want to walk into a cafe, in race position. I want to be able to relax. So it's good that you cater for the different kind of types of people, because not everybody wants that kind of close fitting. Of course, the trendies do, but not. The other thing you touched on, the different colours there. Where do you source? Who comes up with? I tell you what, we're going to go with black, white, purple, or I can see yellow in the background. I can see a different colours or designs and things like that. Who decides what way you go? I know you don't. You might do. Look at designers and shows, and what they're using. Normal clothing outside of cycling. But how do you design your
Yeah, I mean,
colours?
you could say I'm in charge of products, so you could say maybe ultimately I decide, but it's a joint decision. I mean, when we went into cycling wear, it was with some strong paradigm governing the introduction of cycling wear. For example, we didn't want to introduce GripGRab as a fashion type of company. So we decided to go for evergreen colors. So our first colors were like navy blue, olive green, dark red, black, of course. We quickly learned that black isn't really a big color for jerseys, but never mind. So really trying to stay true to the idea of being evergreen, so that our different products they can have a long product life. Because when I talk about product life, there's both the physical, or the extrinsic part, that the product will last, but a product that will be replaced just because it doesn't have the right color, I mean, is also not very sustainable. And that's why we started with these core colors that are still a part of our color palette. Step by step, we have introduced new colors, but more like seasonal colors, and that's because cyclists, they also want to being able to express themselves, and in that sense we kind of follow the trends, look in trend books, see what's going on. But I mean, always trying to ensure that we don't pick a color that will just be just for this season. There needs to be some degree of you could say, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I can maybe add. I mean, these are a couple of examples of actually our first range. We have here a nice long sleeve thermal jersey, and then a typical lightweight gilet. And this is in the color that we call olive green, and this is in navy blue. And these colors are chosen because they complement each other so well. I mean, it's difficult to illustrate the opposite. But if this has been mailbox red, it wouldn't be appropriate. I mean, the gilet in itself might be a nice little piece, but it would only pair with very few colors. So the whole point with the way we choose colors, as Christian says, is to, we have to appreciate that cyclists, as Christian says, they like to express themselves, and I think the most sustainable company would the most sustainable range would only be just black, right? But we wouldn't succeed as a cycling wear brand. We wouldn't get our products out there in retail and everywhere if they were all just black. Because we have to speak about the other side of cycling as well. That's also the vanity part, the part that you want to look good on your bike. That's also a key component for a lot of people on the bikes. I mean, myself included. So colors are a thing. It's an important component, but we try to keep our colors, as you can say, so that they can be combined, and also that they are evergreen. And we also stay with some, you would say, some very, you would say basic, what do you call these, like the design elements. So it's the GripGRab logo discreetly placed. I mean, it's not like fashion stripes all here and there, and then the next year it's a zebra pattern, and then the next year it's a giraffe. And we really try to make it sort of you would say like kind of like a Scandinavian design ethos behind everything we do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I touched on just before about and I know it's a kind of maybe a bold statement, but I don't know if anybody gets it completely 100% right. It's women's clothing, because in my mind, and like I said earlier, I'm going to talk to Eleanor Barker after this as well, but it's more complex than I think men's clothing, and because there's so many different sizing, and okay, it's okay if you're a professional bike rider get measured, but we as guys tend to be a little bit more uniform. Like you said there, Martin, you'll be a medium top, medium bottoms, but in women's cycling, you could be an extra small top and a large bottom, and then you're talking about different chest sizes and everything like that. It's more complex than you think. How do you guys kind of deal with that situation, and how do you use the sizing?
I'm glad you mentioned that, Brian, and you are absolutely right. You could say that the variations in because a female anatomy creates it's bigger than for men, maybe, but for me it's also about just taking women's cycling seriously, because I think for too long, making women's cycling wear is about, shrink it and pink it, popularly speaking. But that's not how you should go about it, and that's also not how we go about it. I mean, first of all, our senior product developer is Anne-Sophie, obviously a woman. She's herself an avid cyclist. So I mean, she knows about women's cycling wear, right? And then we work with, just like when we test products, when we try products, we test them on different types of body types, and then adapt the products. I mean, for when we speak about shorts, of course you need to have like a pad that's specifically for women. You need to make adjustments so the cycling wear fit. You could say maybe slightly wider hips on women, etc., etc. So I think it's about taking the category seriously and being able to, or being willing to invest, because we also have to be honest that you could say women's cycling has grown from almost nothing to now being a big thing. But I think in the early days, I think brands, they just weren't willing to invest into inventory. But from day one, we said, I mean, GripGRab is like an inclusive brand. I mean, we want to have equal offerings for men and women, so that everybody can go out and ride in comfort with gear that actually fits.
Yeah, exactly.
So So taking it seriously and doing an effort to make it fit, and then realizing that everything will not be like perfect.
Yeah, but I mean, essentially, I think you maybe missed that part. I mean, we have and from the get-go, we decided to say, well, we want to have a one-to-one offering, men and women, so that if a style and a color, if that comes in a men's edition, it should also come in a women's edition. And I think we have to be honest. That was a big task, and it was also a little bit challenging and risky, because we were looking at presenting this to retailers that were saying, it's very nice, but we'll buy the men's stuff or the unisex stuff. We're not going to list the women's stuff. So the first in-sale season, I just remember we were looking at the numbers my supply chain manager and we were like saying, oh, this is not, I mean, we're not going to get our manufacturers to accept, producing 3 extra small of that jersey and 6 mediums of that jersey. So we had to take a deep breath and said, all right, we believe in this. We invest into that additional inventory required to make those minimum order quantities, attractive enough for the manufacturer to accept it. And then we launched the first products, and sell-through from the get-go wasn't super impressive. But we're now entering our 4th consecutive winter season, and the amount of traction that we received on cycling wear, also from some of those retailers that were initially reluctant to even list it, is proving that it's the right course of action. And I think, had we been had we been owned by a capital fund, someone who had said, look, you need to make only commercial decisions that benefit the investors, this would had never happened. I mean, it's a decision that Christian and I made together because we wanted it, so badly, and we don't regret now that we did it. But I mean, it wasn't the right thing to do from the get-go. But
no, 100%. You're speaking. I remember must have been maybe 10 years ago, speaking to a manufacturer, and they had, I think, 16% of sales were women's clothing, and I said, well, your range is very small, and I said, well, why should we invest? When it's only 16%, we concentrate on men's side of clothing, and I just like, well, if you invested more and gave more, a bigger range or gave them more, then you might sell a little bit more. But that was the vision of many. They just they can use men's clothing or whatever it is, but it is women's clothing is very specific, and I know that women's cycling is going from strength to strength. I see it here in the UK. I see a lot more females out riding, and as I said, it is becoming more and more popular. And the biggest problem here, because I've got a local gym and I was doing spin classes and things like that, and I got talking to I would say there would be 90% females in the spin classes and 10% guys. And getting to talk to them, the biggest problem here in the UK, especially in the London area, is just safety. They didn't want to ride outdoors and safety, but they did mention about bikes and clothing and various other things. So if the opportunity was there for them, then I think that you'll sell more if it's directly geared up towards them. Moving on from that, how you guys have kind of developed over the last 25 years have been interesting, talking about keeping warm and gloves and various things. And from you at the start, Christian, when you're riding your mountain bike in the USA and thinking that I wish I had better gloves and various things, and your progress with Van der Poel's inner grip gloves and things like that, which is something I didn't know, so I'm glad you shared that with us. But you've come from kind of gloves, overshoes. You've showed a little bit of kind of clothing and various other things. What's the future hold for GripGRab? Where are you going? I know you want to extend to different countries, but where are you guys going with your product, your development, and what else are you kind of going to add?
I mean, on the product side of things, I mean, we definitely have a lot of work ahead of us. I mean, you could say to develop these different rider universes. They are far from complete. I mean, we are really strong within this pacer universe. I mean, that universe caters to fast speed road and gravel. I mean, it's about going fast, being aerodynamic. We are really good at that. The whole Explore range, which it's more about gravel riding, bike packing, adventure. I mean, it's a real diverse category. I mean, gravel has grown like tremendously and is growing, but you see it grows in different directions. So we are really, I mean, also leaning into that, trying to understand what are the needs. I mean, we do a lot of gravel riding ourselves. I mean, we have people also in the company who loves bike packing, even ultra racing, etc., etc. So it's really being curious about what are the needs within this type of riding. That's where a lot of our development efforts will be going into. So really, I mean, staying true to that, you could say, ethos of ensuring that people can ride whenever, wherever they want. I mean, however they want to ride, a gravel road. I think that's the future of GripGRab. But I mean, we are a company that very much grows organically. I mean, we don't have venture capital invested, so things I wouldn't say go slowly, because we are developing quite quickly, but taking one step at a time.
Yeah, I mean, I think Christian and I, we own the company, and we're fairly young. I mean, Christian is 50 and I'm 44, and I mean, like Christian says, we're not in a hurry, to take the business anywhere really. I mean, we're in this for the long run. And for the passion, essentially. And what Christian is alluding to, is the extension and you would say completion of these rider universes. I think maybe in this podcast we could benefit from throwing in a little bit of some lifestyle imagery and some graphics that can illustrate, so that people understand it better conceptually, what it is that we mean by these rider universes. But I think for us, it's the crucial next steps here will be to make sure that we roll out these. Essentially, we need to roll out the understanding of the rider universes so that people get it. Because if people get it, then I would state that then we have an offering that is attractive for any cyclist out there. But it's also a lot about what we've been speaking about. It's about understanding. And making sure that you comfortably and confidently make the right choices when you're standing in front of a purchase decision. And I think, alluding to that, a lot of sales now happen online. That makes it even more important, for cyclists out there to actually understand the product, understand the brand, understand the fitting, so that they can, invest with confidence.
Yeah,
and that's a big next mission for us. I mean, we are not there at all. I mean, we can speak about the long-term vision for that, but we're just not there. So we have plenty of things to do. And then, I mean, we dream about making GripGRab a global business. I would say right now it's very much a Northern Europe, going a little bit into some Southern Europe countries. Now we have stuff going on over there in Canada, but yeah, I mean we have I would say we have global ambitions on behalf of our overall purpose. I mean, enriching lives through cycling for us is something universal, something we live and breathe every day, and that we think everyone, every cyclist out there in the world should be offered that opportunity.
No, 100%. You've sent me some products that I'm going to look forward to trying myself when the weather isn't as great. But I think the testament that's is coming through from talking with you guys is especially that the Uno X Pro Ben Dixon. He uses the product, although he's probably been sponsored by someone else, but he uses the product because he thinks it's essential, and seeing this product and having, looking forward to trying it as well. The thing that comes to me is once you try it and use it, you know how good it is, and then it becomes a kind of product for life. So for you guys, if you're promoting the ride all year, that's the sort of kind of go-to kit that you want to. You're not going to use anything else because you've got the best. And if you've got kind of leaders in that area of gloves and overshoes, and top riders like Mathieu van der Poel using them and things, once you start to use a product, it's you've got it for life. If you get the sizing and the colouring and things like that, then it's the same with anything. As soon as a person tries your product, loves your product, then that's going to be a customer for life, and that's a good situation that you've got. You could arguably say that you're one of, if not the best kind of manufacturers of the extremities, the hands and the feet with the overshoes and gloves, but that will transform into the other products that you're doing. You've already shown the kind of your GABA style jacket, your rain jacket, your various other products and things like that. So I think you're in a good situation now.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, being, you would say, on the sideline of development and not being the founder, what is really interesting to me and important to highlight here is that I see that initial realization that Christian did up there on that mountaintop in the US, and that he's done several times riding with his mountain bike buddies back in the 90s in the forest of Roskilde. It's freezing hands, it's discomfort, and it's then coming up with products that make solutions for these products. I see that essentially in every product that comes out of Christian and his team. It's the very same mentality. It's the very same essentially it's the very same problem that we try to address. I mean, we can also speak about quality. I mean, Christian forgot to mention that, but the very first batch of gloves that were imported there from Pakistan, I mean, they were rubbish.
Yeah, they sucked.
They were rubbish. I mean, simply because the manufacturer had been sluggish about stitching them. I mean, glove stitching is a very, very difficult thing. I think it's like a 5-year education in Pakistan to actually become a certified glove stitcher. And I think also that first realization that you need to be on top of your manufacturers, literally, to make sure that they deliver in the right quality, that we consistently deliver right quality, that also shines through today. So GripGRab possesses what I see from the outside, looking at many other brands, a very unique position and very unique mentality that is really anchored in the founder, and that is an obsession about coming up with solutions for riders, and an obsession about quality. And if you combine those two obsessions, then you make some really good products, and that's where we are.
I know, because most people think a glove's a glove, isn't it? When my mum used to sit there and knit her gloves, a glove's a glove.
Yeah.
She used to sit there and, otherwise would be gloveless and, absolutely freezing cold. But, guys, it's been absolutely fascinating. But like I said from the start, I want to put an emphasis on this, that, everybody, when they think about clothing, they might think about, looking good. But certainly, on the racing side of things, the aerodynamics. But I don't think I can, or we can stress enough. And you've got this slogan: train better, race better, and enjoy, riding more, and all year. So for me, that's kind of message of this kind of podcast, because if you do not have the correct clothing to ride all year, then it is going to hamper your performance, especially on the hands and the feet. And everybody that rides a bike, especially in cold conditions, will go through this. We've had additions in pro bike racing, even with MTN Quebec, with Gerard Cilik winning Milan San Remo, maybe a bit of a surprise to many, and he'll always go down in the record books. But at the end of the day, there was because of the extreme conditions of the snow and things like that, people couldn't ride on. We see it as a commentator in some of the races, when you get extreme cold, people are banging their hands off their thighs and trying to get some heat into the. That's even with a bag in the back. I can remember riding races where I think I swapped gloves 3 times, because you go back to the car, take your old ones off, which are sodden and wet, and then putting others on, and you're using different products and things like that. So for you guys to be the kind of front runners in that area, I know that you're not going to get to some countries because of the weather they've got in these countries, but definitely Canada, anywhere kind of North America, certainly Europe, even down to southern hemisphere. I think there are a lot of countries. Hopefully, if they're watching this, will maybe look at GripGRab and go, I tell you what, these guys are the front runners for the hands and the feet, and try your products. And once you try them, it goes on to your other products in the range. So just to conclude, if Martin and Christian, it's really been a little bit of an education for me. But if there's anything else you would like to share with whoever's viewing this, I'd appreciate that before we conclude this podcast.
Yeah, I've got one, Brian. I mean, I think wearing GripGRab regardless of or wearing something else. I mean, I think the most important inspiration that we want to leave the listeners or the viewers with is, that you shouldn't let the weather or the circumstances stop you from ever going out riding. There are plenty of products out there, be it GripGRab or other brands, that you can wear. So, I mean, don't be afraid to seek out advice. I mean, don't be afraid of asking dumb questions. Just educate yourself and get educated, and don't let anything stop you from riding all year and riding in all conditions. I mean, the benefits of being able to do that are so immense that you shouldn't, if you have the passion for it and have your drive for it, let you stop or let stop you.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the core message from us here.
Yeah, no, 100%. It has been fascinating. I can't stress enough that the importance of having the right training clothing as a rider, because if you can't train hard or better, then you're never going to get better on a bike. And too many think more about kind of aerodynamics more than the performance of staying warm and gloves and things like that. But yeah, thank you very much, Martin and Christian. It's been a great GripGRab conversation, and I wish you guys all the best. There will be, of course, another part to this podcast when I talk to Eleanor Barker about her experiences of using your products, women's clothing as well. But yeah, thank you very much, and I wish you guys all the success.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Have a good weekend. It's Friday, so have a great weekend.
Yeah. Bye for now.
All right.